Good morning, Lagos. Thank you for staying with us. This is Smooth 98.1, a smooth breakfast with me, Valentine.
And I am Myra Essay. Good morning, Lagos.
Good morning, and good morning to you, Ikemesit.
Good
Good
morning.
morning. Welcome, welcome. Ikemesit is Judge Ike on Twitter, and we have a guy, very
I'm
Justin
offended.
EJ. Hi, Justin.
Good morning,
I just
people.
wanted to stretch your hailing,
I
but
wish I was feeling that.
I know the vibe.
That vibe
It's
today,
okay.
but there's too much in the news.
Something to do with the lack of caffeine.
Right.
Yeah.
It must be it. It must be it. We have stories to take, but first, a quick reminder here: you can send in messages through WhatsApp 0809 4440981. Also on Twitter at Smooth981FM with the hashtag FreshlyPressed981.
981. And
We're streaming live.
on YouTube. Yes, you can search for us on Smooth 981 on YouTube and also use the live chat option to send in your messages as well. All right, let's go on to our first story here. We had reports yesterday, reactions on the killing of the daughter of Afenifere leader Pafashoronti, Mrs. Funke Olakunrin. Now, yesterday, another viral statement or viral reaction was by Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, leader of the All Progressive Congress, national leader of the APC, who had been quoted to have said that he expressed skepticism at it being attributed to herdsmen, and talked about the fact that it could have been kidnappers, and the fact that she was destined to go this way. She was destined, it was ordained by God. And so today the headline reads, Yoruba youths flay Tinubu over remarks over Olakunrin's killing. Guardian has this story. Justin, please, can you take us through this?
So, I mean, you were right when you said it's viral because
Yeah.
it made such a splash and
Yes, it
everybody
did.
has been going on about it. Several people have come for the Asiwaju over his comments. There are several ways to look at his comments. I choose to look at them in context and to remind myself that there is a certain, so you know these jokes online when people talk about when your Nigerian parent says,
Yes, yeah.
there's a way that we talk. It's brash, it's loud, it borders on insensitive. And when I say we, I mean the generation of my fathers, right?
Yes.
And maybe Asiwaju is not different. I don't think that he is insensitive to the loss of the of Papa Sharanti, right? But he cannot but be a Nigerian parent. And the youth coming after him are basically saying, Asiwaju, quoting Olalekan Ahmed from this article, who is the president of the Yoruba Youths Sociocultural Association, says Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu should be told that headsmen cannot be exonerated from the crime, since the police preliminary report says that Mrs. Funke Olakunrin was murdered by suspected headsmen. Besides, Mrs. Fashoranti, one of the Mr. Kende Fashoranti, one of the sons of Chief Ruben Fashoranti, had also been told by the police in Ore that the attackers operated, the way the attackers operated was similar to the modus operandi of herdsmen, and they go on and on about that. And of course, they now throw their weight behind Obasanjo's words, as said in the letter that he had just written. So this is really ripping the fabric of the Yoruba community apart. But I would say that this is a time for people to come together. It's unfortunate, and I was saying this to Valentine downstairs by way of a confession, but I won't repeat it online. But the point is, it's good that we are rallying around this particular incident. It shouldn't have been. It shouldn't take the death of someone prominent for us to rally. But it's good and it's the right time for us to rally and really confront the issues. This is not the time to politicize. This is not the time to hair split and nitpick, right? Over which is why I wouldn't dwell so much on the seeming insensitivity of the Asiwaju's remarks. Let's keep the issue in focus. And what's the issue here? The insecurity is just unbelievable.
Yeah. So whether herdsmen, kidnappers,
whoever they are, can we have people being arrested? Can we have culprits in jail? Can we have capital punishment, since we allow it, meted out to people who are caught and convicted in a court of law.
Right.
People need to feel safe in this country. I happen to travel that road a lot because if you're on that route, going by air, the Benin airport is a very fickle airport in terms of weather conditions.
Conditions.
A lot of times I have to go to Benin, and I realize over time that it's just better to drive because you go to the airport, you spend 5 hours, and your flight is cancelled because the weather is bad. So there are people who ply that route. I personally do not feel safe anymore on that road.
First, it was how dangerous it was to drive on that road, not in terms of security, but in terms of how
How bad it
the road
was.
is.
Now it's better. Now it's better. I
Yeah.
can testify to the fact that the road between here and
What section though?
so you have a couple of sections that are
Yes,
still bad
between here and Ogun State.
between here and Ogun State, exactly.
Yes, well.
But once you cross the Ogun State, it's fine. But now it's no longer the nature of the road; it's the fact that you're not safe. People just come out of the bush
Which
and
is
start
rather
shooting.
unfortunate.
Yeah. So let's rally around this and let action
Be taken.
be taken.
Oh,
Yes. I think
Thank
that's
you very
important
much.
thing.
Thank you.
Bengals says, unfortunately, our laws are very weak. Several suspects have been arrested, but none have been severely dealt with as a deterrent. For instance, the Fulani, headsmen, let's call them headsmen because regardless of tribe, it's still headsmen are headsmen. Evans, the kidnapper, he said, even has the temerity to contest his arrest and prosecution. He has filed several cases of abuse of his so-called fundamental human rights. This nonsense can only happen in a country like Nigeria, and I think speaking to the need for consequences, so people can,
I do have a thing for when people say, or I find it distasteful when people say this kind of thing only happens in Nigeria. There's nothing happening here that is common to us, really.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's
it
unique to
happens
us.
just like
It happens
it
That is
does
everywhere in the
unique to
world,
us,
yeah.
rather, yes.
Differently. All right, let's move on to our next story. Chemistry, I'll come to you for this. National Assembly members receive, decry 12.3 billion naira welcome package. So they've been paid their welcome package, including accommodation, furniture allowances. But according to the Punch newspaper, they learned, they gathered that some of the lawmakers were not happy because the allowances fell below their expectations. How sad. Chemistry, can you please take us through this?
Is that the reason for your huge
This-
side?
I'm just
Because
like
it's side.
Because it's a really sad story, and we have to, be empathetic about our very poor and underpaid
Wow.
lawmakers. And
Sarcasm
yes,
this morning.
and to use
The new word.
just this new word, enhungered lawmakers.
Impoverished.
Yeah, please ask him how it's spelled. I don't know. I just know how it's pronounced. Well, basically, what the Punch's report alludes to is the fact that some lawmakers have been complaining about their new welcome package, which includes their salaries and then their benefits or what they call their expense, settlement expense allowances. Interestingly, the report seems to suggest that a lot of the complaints are coming from first-time lawmakers, and so basically, what our lawmakers got was something in the region of between 25 million to 30 million naira, depending on whether you were in the lower house or in the or in the upper house of the National Assembly. So I did some digging, and at this rate, right, the average senator's income, including expense allowances, would be about 156 million naira a year. Now, if you earn 100,000 naira monthly, which is a rough baseline. There are tens of millions of Nigerians that don't even earn up to 100k a month. But let's just assume for the baseline, you earn 100k a month. That would translate to about 1.2 million naira annually. The BBC has this very nice calculator because this conversation has been enduring over the last 3 years. So they come up with this really nice calculator. They call it how do you compare with a senator calculator? You could go check it out. Just Google it up. It's on the BBC website. So if your annual salary is 1.2 million naira, that is 100,000 naira a month.
Before tax.
Yes, before tax. It would take the average Nigerian senator about 5 hours and 37 minutes to earn what you earn in a month. Right? So that's one level, right? If you earn 100,000 naira a month at that current salary scale, it will take you approximately 130 years to earn the average senator's annual income. So you would have needed to have been born, brought up, gone to school, and started working in 1889. Fun fact, in 1889,
So you need
right?
to be like Methuselah.
Yeah, exactly. In 1889 was when the protectorate of the colonial protectorate of Southern Nigeria was declared, for those who understand their history.
Yeah.
You would have needed to have started working from then
Mm.
till now
Mm.
to earn what the average Nigerian
First
senator
of all,
earns.
you're only alive.
Well, that's the first part, but
Lord Lugard wasn't
yeah,
born.
but we're using the stats, right?
Uh,
At your current salary scale, a senator's monthly income in this country can buy 866 bags of rice,
okay.
while the average monthly salary or 100,000 naira
I was going to say
monthly
maybe
salary.
100,000 is not the average.
No, I
salary.
know, yeah.
Right.
So yeah, so I corrected that. So while 100,000 naira is the average money salary, assuming you're spending all of this on rice,
Mm.
will only purchase you 6 bags of rice.
Okay.
This the comments and the complaints by senators. The story doesn't quote a lot of the people. It makes references to Sheil Sani's comments from last year,
Also,
which
Uzo
initially brought the
Kalu's
story,
comment.
and then Odious Okalu's comments from this year, where he talked about it not being enough because, according to them, they need to fly around, they need to,
Constituency projects.
they need to sponsor constituency projects. Essentially, what they are saying is they need to continue to prop up the levers of political patronage, which we have said repeatedly adds to the cost of governance, which is weighing on federal spending plans, right? This just underscores the scale of the magnitude of how out of touch large members of the political elite are. Yeah, it is very hard to sympathize with them, but our attempt.
It also reflects on the wide margin between the poor and the rich in the
yes.
country. I mean, the middle class is very
It's
rare.
almost
Almost
non-existent.
non-existent.
The middle class is very fickle. You're probably one health emergency or one family emergency
Right.
away from dropping into the bottom income cadres. It's messy out there.
Adenike sent us a message. She said, "This is not about herdsmen." I think speaking to the security issue and reactions from Tinubu's statements, said, "This is security breach. I will strongly recommend that all bushes be cleared and anyone found in a bushes hideout be summarily executed. If the security is able to apprehend any of these people, you'll be shocked they are not Fulani, they are natives."
Yes, that's what some people have argued, and perhaps that was what
Let's stop the
Senator-
speculation about the tribe or
Yes.
identity of
It's
the
not
people.
about
They are
They're
criminals.
It's
yes,
criminals. I mean, you
absolutely.
see heavily, endowed men in terms of, they have chest and muscles and everything, carrying weapons. You think, no.
All right.
okay.
Okay, let's go on to the Punch newspaper for the next one. Justin, I'll come to you for this. We're still negotiating, talking about still on crime and insecurity. Negotiating for Chibok girls, Sharibu, others released, says the presidency. Now they say that they're still negotiating for the release, and they faulted Aisha Sese, who is a former CNN anchor, for saying in her newly published book that Nigerians and the government had forgotten the kidnapped girls because they were from poor homes. So we've had a lot of reactions following Ronti's daughter's death, and the reactions that followed suit. People have said that if she were not such a prominent figure, the daughter of a prominent figure, would she have gotten such attention? And that brings us back home to the comments made by Aisha Sese in her book, and now the reaction from the presidency. Please, can you now give us your own reaction and response?
Well, we are very elitist when it comes to, when I say we, I'm speaking about us as a collective. We are elitist in our reactions to crisis situations. So, just like we saw in the first story, when something that is an everyday occurrence, an everyday reality of the average Nigerian, which we basically just move on as though it's not a big deal, happens to one of the elites, the reaction is very different. Now, that's what Aisha Sese was alluding to in her book, Beneath the Tamarind Tree. And let me just say that the presidency didn't come out to issue a press release about the status of release of the rest of the Chibok girls and other people who have been kidnapped. Gabache issued a press release responding to Aisha Sese's book. Now let that sink in for a moment. They didn't come to update us even though people have been saying, what's up with Leah Shoaibu, who has become the face of the rest of the girls,
Yes.
we basically do not have any information really that has been officially issued. But Aisha Sise writes a book. We all know that she was involved heavily in the station for Bring Back Our Girls back in the day.
Yes.
So now she's written a book about her experiences with that, criticizing how events had played out at the time. And we quickly have a rebuttal. Now, this is what we see from the administration a lot. Transparency International makes a comment about where we are in human rights issues. We come out and issue a rebuttal. The UN says this, we come out, we issue a rebuttal.
A few weeks back, the parents of some of these girls went to America, made a statement. We had a rebuttal.
We had a rebuttal, right? It's interesting that we've chosen to communicate like that, because here now, the presidential spokesman is saying that while it is true that the government had no information on where the captives were held, which is one of the things Aisha Sise had said in her book, it was equally incorrect to say that the government had given up on the Chibok girls. When the truth, I'm quoting him directly now, when the truth is that there was nothing on the ground to give that impression. There is everything on ground to give the impression when you leave a vacuum of information, sir. We don't know what's going on. So yeah, that's mainly what the article is about. Yes.
Thank you very much. And something you pointed out to, which is very important, is how information is managed by the government. We've complained about this with previous governments, so not just with this present one, but it's important. We have a retinue of support staff that deal with information or communication, yet it's insufficient. Let's move on to our next story here. Your governor publicly declares assets worth over 48 billion naira in a move that is not seen very often, or a bit rare. We see that the Oyo State Governor, Mr. Seyi Makinde, yesterday made public his campaign promise to publicly declare his assets, saying he has 9 houses, while his companies are worth over 9 billion naira. Justin, straightforward story, but quite remarkable, would you say?
Seyi Makinde is the hero of the day.
Huh?
Don't even start. He is the hero of the day. He's done what few mainstream politicians are willing to do. And that's why I say he's the hero of the day, right? Maybe it's because he comes from a strictly private sector background.
Yes.
Right? So this is a man who's done business for years, and he's built quite a considerable, he's amassed quite a considerable fortune for himself. But there are a few things that one could wonder about. So part of his assets declared, so total value is about 48 billion. The bulk of that, I must say, reading deeply into the article, seems to come from the valuation of his companies, based on the number of issued shares of those companies. None of them is publicly listed, so they're all private companies. But when I read into the article, I realized, again, sometimes these headlines can be misleading. So it doesn't have 48 billion naira sitting somewhere, people, before, so a lot of that value is locked up in how much share capital his companies are valued by. But then he goes on to declare assets in foreign currency and foreign properties owned. And my dear colleague and I were downstairs wondering.
Don't drag me inside this.
I will drag you. We're inside this WhatsApp group.
But I like how the conversation is going. But one question I would ask as a cynic sometimes would be: is he preempting an action? Oh, he's trying to protect himself from a future, would I say witch or investigation by the FCC?
Pack it.
No, one would ask that question because we've seen the events that led up to this new administration. So perhaps he wants to protect himself.
I just told you where the bulk of that value is. The value of the company.
So you're going to share something that you and I
yes.
benefit.
Let me just say that before we go into it, Ikemetis is the lawyer here.
All right.
Right? Not
wow.
So isn't there something in the law that talks about ownership of foreign assets and all of that, foreign bank accounts when you're a public officer? So I was asking,
You have
does
to
that
make
apply?
it. You have to declare it. You have to make it open. And
Okay,
available.
you have to declare it,
And he has done that.
and he has done that.
So where is the problem?
Why was he saying before?
All right, let's move on.
Okay.
Thank you. Emeka
Leave me
from
out
Ojo
of
says, Asiwaju spoke like a politician, which he is. He's not a spokesman of the government. Anything can be politicized. Brian Echebiri from Lagos says, insecurity in Nigeria has gotten to the heights where it knows nobody, irrespective of your status. However, the poor Nigerians and anyone else who cannot provide for himself or herself maximum security are the most vulnerable.
Sadly so.
Hmm.
Chika Dina from Sierra Leone says, I joined the Yoruba youth in condemning the statements of Tinubu on the death of Fashoranti's daughter. It's most unfortunate that Tinubu could attribute it as the will of God. It's sad that Tinubu 2023, well, he hasn't yet declared presidential is more important to him than the lives of his kinsmen.
That's right. From the Vanguard newspaper, I'll come to you, Kemesit, for your analysis on this story. Burutai, that's the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Tuko Burutai, has said that insecurity has been tamed. Now, what I find interesting about his statements is, besides the situation surrounding he's making this statement with a gun, he said that insecurity or insurgency in the northeast has been tactically defeated. That led me to my dictionary for a quick refresher course. I checked the definition of tactical victory and defined it as losses of the where losses of the defeated outweigh those of the victor. So, despite the victorious force having failed to meet its original objectives, it's still counted as tactical victory. Do you think that's the context he's using to make this statement?
Tell that to the IDPs.
I mean, it's okay. So this is the interesting thing. First and foremost, you don't have the analysis. So thank you very much for that. The second bit is that in addition to that, he actually celebrated the fact that there have been no major attacks in the last 2 to 3 weeks because of new factors, and the attacks have been drastically reduced. We've seen over the lifetime of the current administration, from 2016 onwards, a slow degradation of the bar of victory in the northwest and in the northeast. So we went from we were going to eradicate them to they were going to be they were technically defeated, to they were no longer a threat, to the surge, and now to tactical defeats. So while the attacks have reduced in terms of the casualty count on the civilian side, you've got a huge humanitarian crisis that was created by a backlog of this situation, which the government is not exactly addressing in any coherent shape or form. And then you've also got the fact that the various factions of Boko Haram, especially Islamic State West African Province, ISWAP, have actually retooled their strategy and they are targeting the military. And if you look at the spread of attacks, there was an attack on a military naval base in Baga just 3 weeks ago, which contradicts the very narrow timeline that the Chief of Army Staff was talking about. So the bar of success in terms of addressing insecurity is being managed now, narrative wise, by the government, whereas the actual facts of the ground haven't changed. And there isn't much by way of positive news to report from both the northwest and the northeast.
But we describe a physical scenario based on what we can see with our naked eye. And I'm saying this to, leading the next question, really. By what metric do we measure the success in terms of the fight against insurgency?
When all of the three factions of Boko Haram aren't in any way a military material factor on the ground. That is when people are able to drive from Maiduguri to any part of Borno State without military escorts, not in long convoys that are shepherded by security forces. When people are able to go back, I talked here about how safe for some attacks in some remote areas.
Well, he was speaking in the northeast. So
I know. But are we discountenancing the whole? Are we discountenancing the whole of rural northeast Nigeria
his comments,
just because the urban centers are relatively
safe?
His comments last week tell you the whole story. When a military leader comes out and starts pointing fingers at the troops as the reason for failure, he lost it. And I think Obasanjo called him out on it as well. You don't come out and say to the men on the front lines, you're the reason why.
It's your fault.
You take the L. The buck stops with you. Okay. The moment he did that, I knew that.
Speaking about taking L's, we're in different situations, Justin, now that you have the microphone. From the Punch newspaper, the Ekiti State University lecturer, Dr. Olayeye Aduo, he denied his involvement in the sex for Marx allegation that was leveled against him. He said that he was ambushed while he was having dinner. I find this story really interesting, and I'll let you share.
He's really a yeah.
No.
It's his name now.
I know you're trying to
Yeah.
no,
That's what I'm
do not
referring to his
disparage the
name.
personality, but look at the story objectively.
I'm looking at it now, Valentine.
Okay. I'll take away from it.
So the man says that the girl is the accuser, according to him,
Okay.
is his daughter's friend,
All right.
and that he's supposed to be her guardian. And on this fateful day, June 12th of all days, he was having dinner with his friend, Mr. Allen Akim Mudiro, co-inhabitants, and then she came in, and they were having dinner. And in fact, she joined them to have dinner. And he goes on with this sub-story of a narrative that...
Why do you call it sub-story? Because you sound like you're already taking sides with the girl. That you agree that despite his own account...
I mean, if this really happened, he would have showed those wounds, he would have showed those bruises. He claimed to be physically assaulted. But there was actually an event.
He said he was ambushed in his own house by a young girl who is a university student. He had a male friend with him, and after they had dinner, she suddenly signaled to some hoodlums who invaded his house and blah blah blah. Listen, I'm not going to be politically correct about this one. I believe her story.
Why?
Because this is all too commonplace, and because his response is just ludicrous.
Same reaction that people give to the Me Too movement, right? There's a sweeping generalization that all the women are right, and the account of the men, whenever it comes, is actually wrong. So are we going to go with a mob judgment?
Apples and oranges.
Why has he just come out now to give this account? All the while,
he said he had to seek legal counsel.
No, because all the while he was suspended, so he could, while he was seeking legal counsel, he could have presented it to his university.
Or preferably his lawyers could have.
The same could be used as judgment to those who come out to... Excuse me, let me finish my thoughts.
Where was campus security?
One second, Justin. The same excuse, or rather generalized explanation could be given to those, to the accusation or judgment could be given to those who come out to say, I've been raped X number of years before. Why come out now? Those are the insensitive statements we hear. So how is this not applied same to this man?
All right, so Val, you've read the story. We're not judging because it's still in court, but how plausible does it sound to you? Because at the end of the day, even with common sense, when you read a certain account, it's easy to note when, like you mentioned, he was ambushed by a lady who was eating dinner with her. When you listen to a story like that,
it doesn't sound plausible to me. I'm just trying to see both sides.
It's fair enough that you're doing that, but also it's important because we've seen cases like you mentioned when a rape case comes up and it's all like, oh, she ambushed me or something happened, she wanted it wasn't like that. But let's go on to some comments. One comment before we move on. Guys, no emotions about the pay of senators. Check the price of rent in the expensive area of Abuja, the amount of salary for personal staff, diesel for big man generators, and so on. The money sounds big in our ears or small on the hand.
All right, big money. Okay, Vanguard newspaper has this one. I'd like you to touch on that. This one is on. It said Nigerians need to be wary of the danger of climate change. It's real. It's right now happening before us. We see flooding in most areas. So your thoughts on this entire story?
Yeah, indeed. There was this interesting report that came out just over the weekend that talked about the temperature differences in most major cities around the world and how it would pan out just in 2050. And I think the temperature difference from Lagos was something the order of 4 or 5 degrees. So basically, Lagos will be 4 or 5. I'm just restricting myself to Lagos, obviously. In different parts of the country, there are different issues, erosions, desertification in parts of the north and all of that. So Lagos will be on average 4 or 5 degrees hotter, which means that we'll have much hotter days. And if you understand your water cycle very well, it means that when rainfall does show up, it will be heavier, it will be more significant. We need to start investing in the infrastructure. We need to start looking at more intelligently at urban planning and about how this city can be structured in such a way that it's more livable for us. Most Lagosians live a torturous existence now. It's only going to get worse.
And breaking it down, also, we need to reclaim some of our major water drainages. Most of our canals have buildings set on them. Yeah, so these are real issues. But thank you, gentlemen. We really appreciate you, despite the limitation of time. Because it's our judge, on Twitter, Justin at Justin EJ. And I myself will be here till 10 o'clock, actually. We're going nowhere. In the next 15 minutes, we go on the entertainment side of life for the Grapevine 91 here on Smooth 98.1. Good morning.
Best, where money never sleeps.
Time.
Ambushed. Okay.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.